Hello, and welcome back to Coffee on Korriban. I know that it's been a while since going live. It just, again, as we talked about last time, it's hard to have the excitement for Star Wars these days. Yes, we're in a dead period kind of between shows, but at the same time, Ahsoka is right around the corner. And I feel like we should all be much more excited than a lot of us are. And some of you guys in the comments are stoked for it. That is awesome. I really wish I was full on as hyped for this as I was for Andor. And I just am not, unfortunately. Let's say hello to the people in the chat. We have got Matt Cave Gaming, big supporter, friend of the channel. Here's a sip for you. We've got Leia Rose in the chat. Here's a sip for you. And what's the takeaway? Here is a sip for you. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Just you being in the chat is awesome. Also, Jake76, here's a sip for you. Yes, I am live. What's up, dude? What's up, dude? Yes, good to see you guys. Oh, Scoundrels Cantina. Brother, here's a sip for you. Never been harder to be excited about anything Hollywood, if you ask me. Yes. And so there was one movie, product, whatever you want to call it, that I was immensely excited for. And that was Oppenheimer. I am not seeing Oppenheimer. I didn't see it. I am not going to see it because of the unnecessary junk that they decided to throw in there that has nothing to do with the plot. I am not going to go put myself into see that. It's just, I'm very bummed about that. But it's like a lot of other things in Hollywood, Disney, these major production houses, they throw in stuff that doesn't need to be there, whether it's the stuff in Oppenheimer or plot points that don't need to be there, or their woke agenda, which we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. I know that's a point that's been talked to death by a lot of different channels. We'll touch on it tonight. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Jake says, how are you and your family doing? Awesome. We are doing well. My 2-year-old is sick right now, but that's, it's just a little thing, nothing serious. Overall, we're good. Trying to spend more family time with them, get some other stuff in order, which is why I haven't really been a YouTuber as much recently, but overall, we're doing good. We're doing really well. How are you doing, Jake? Honestly, I want to hear how you're doing. And everyone else in chat, how are you guys doing? Because it's been a while since we've talked, although it's me kind of just talking to the camera and you guys watching probably on your phones. And speaking of watching on your phones, if you feel so inclined, delicately tap that like button. You don't have to, but please do not smash it. Like I said, you're probably watching on your phone, and if you do not delicately smash it, it'll probably end up something like that. Compliments of my daughter. But we're going to get into this discussion tonight. We have a quick news segment a little bit later to touch on something that I thought was really amusing. One of my favorite headlines in a news article that I've seen in quite a while. I think you'll see why as we get into it, as well as a very special guest that I have lined up. Some may even call him the most pivotal figure in all of Star Wars. And he will be joining the show, and we'll hear his take on this. George Lucas. So we may be getting him on the show and hearing his thoughts about this Ahsoka show. But I'll pose that question to you, all of you guys in the chat. How do you feel about Ahsoka? I know we did the 1 through 10 last time we did a stream. How are you guys feeling about that? But let's put it in different terms today. Instead of 1 through 10, how excited are you? What do you think either could be the thing that makes this show great, or the thing that drags it down to the abyss of nothingness the most? That's what we're going to talk about today. If you've seen my recent videos, it's basically going to be a live discussion version of that with you guys. The video I posted last night, and then the other one a couple days ago. 5 things that could make this show, and 5 things that could break this show. So, what's the takeaway? Says he's excited for Dune Part 2. Not sure about Ahsoka, though haven't seen any videos. And that's another thing. It doesn't seem, and this could just be YouTube feeding me stuff that I want to see, or not feeding me stuff that I'm not really interested in. I have not seen a whole lot of online YouTube hype for the Ahsoka show like I did with Andor, Mandalorian, some of the other stuff. I haven't seen anything. The trailers will pop up in my feed, and I'll watch that, maybe a couple reactions to the trailers, but as far as discussion or breakdown or theorizing videos, I really have not seen a whole lot, which is very surprising. I don't know if that's a marketing thing or if there legitimately is a lack of interest in this show. I can't say to be sure. Scoundrels Cantina says, honestly, don't have much expectations, but what already drags it down, in my opinion, would be the era it's in, and the fact we know that Thrawn loses, since it all goes to the sequels anyway. Yeah, and that's a problem with this time period. There's only so much you can do with it. Andor worked because it zoomed into the really fine details of what led up to the original trilogy. But there's a large gap that's full of question marks, but ultimately we know what it leads to. And so, is it possible that they come up with something that's really interesting? Yes, of course. The universe is massive. Could the Ahsoka, Ezra, Thrawn faction be off in a different part of the galaxy fighting a different battle, or being somewhere else during the events of the sequel trilogy? Yes. Would that make it too convoluted? Probably. Would it be too hard for the average moviegoer or television watcher or Disney Plus enjoyer, attempted enjoyer, to really appreciate and firmly grasp a hold of? Probably. But I guess it's always possible. Never would have thought that people would not be interested in Ahsoka, but she's been so overused at this point that people just do not care anymore. I mean, I don't care at all anymore. I don't know. Yeah. And that brings me to my first point of, and again, if you saw my two most recent videos, this will kind of be a recap of that. We can discuss in the comments. But is there a case of Ahsoka fatigue? Among the general population, probably not, because again, Ahsoka is a very unknown character to the average casual Star Wars enjoyer. I won't even call him a Star Wars fan, but just someone who's watched the movies, maybe, and they probably saw at least one of the seasons of The Mandalorian, and Ahsoka maybe was just a character they've seen. They might know her name, but they're not really interested. So for those people, there probably won't be any Ahsoka fatigue. But for Star Wars fans like myself and probably you guys watching, and that's a good question, I'll throw that back to you guys. Is this a case of oversaturation of a character? Is it even possible that she is killed off in her show? I don't think so. We all know it's Dave Filoni's baby. That's his child. And so is she going to be the never in real danger hero? Because she can't die. That's just, of course she can't die, right? Come on, guys. She can't die. Very possible. Matt Cave, good to see you in the chat. Everyone, and I know I say this all the time, if you are not subscribed to the Matt Cave, please do so. If you're interested in gaming at all, he's got one of the best catchphrases I've ever heard in my entire life. So definitely check out his channel if you haven't already. If he is not already at 1,000 subscribers, he is very, very close. So maybe you can help him get across that finish line. That is an excellent achievement. He's so close, and he is extremely deserving of that. So give him a subscription if you have not already. I think the letdown of Kenobi, which no one saw coming, was to that degree is also a big reason for so much skepticism, and let alone Mando Season 3, which was... yeah. And so that's a very good point. Kenobi, I can't tell you how many times from YouTubers, from casual fans, from coworkers, from friends of mine, that all said the same line. if Kenobi is bad, I'm done with Star Wars, or something to that effect. If this show bombs, I don't know if I can watch the next show that they come out with. And so Andor for me revived a lot of that hope that I had been missing out on, which is kind of pushing me along now. I'm running on fumes. But yes, definitely Kenobi was a major letdown for a lot of people. The fact that they had Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi back on the screen again. And it was seen by most people as subpar or even a complete disaster by, depending on who you ask. Everyone has their own opinions on that. But yeah, definitely. So getting back to Ahsoka fatigue, could that be what we're seeing is that people are saturated with, and infatuated, I guess, some people, with Ahsoka, that it's not going to be an opportunity for them to enjoy the story, regardless of whether it's good or not. In all honesty, I would have preferred that the Clone Wars Rebels character storylines ended with the last episode of Rebels, since it ties in perfectly with Return of the Jedi. It feels full circle. Yeah, or even have what would that be, the 5th season of Rebels? Sort of like what they did with the 7th season of the Clone Wars, where it's its own standalone season in a slightly different tone, but it wraps up that story. I would have loved that. I think that would have knocked it out of the park if they just continued what they did, because not really many people have an issue with Rebels, aside from Yoda, Anakin Skywalker, which there's explanations for those things, and the skinny lightsabers. But overall, with the story, once you actually watch Rebels, I don't think anyone has a problem with that. So maybe a 5th season could have been a good idea for them. But we're getting the Ahsoka show. Alan Copeland is in the chat. Here's a sip for you. Good to see you, dude. So let's get on to our next point here. From Ahsoka fatigue, another thing that can completely sink this show is if they Disneyfy it. You know what I'm talking about. It's a subjective thing, hard to put into words, but if they Disneyfy this show, it'll tank. Kenobi was very Disneyfied. Book of Boba Fett was very Disneyfied. Andor had hardly any tinge of a hint of a taste of Disney in it, and it was all the better for it. Andor was like the LaCroix of Disney products. Like, no flavor when it comes to actual Disney stuff. And I'm not just talking about happy endings and stuff, but you can tell in the writing, like, oh, that's a thing Disney would do. The thing swoops out and saves them out of nowhere, or the joke is thrown in at the wrong time. You can just get a flavor for that, which goes back to the argument I've made a bunch of times with the sequels trilogy, that Marvel storytelling was really popular at the time, and so they threw that into Star Wars when they probably should have done something a little bit different. But you guys know what I'm talking about with Disneyfying. If they Disneyfy this show, this Ahsoka show, and it is in the same vein of that taste, that flavor as the 3rd season of Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's going to be just another show that they make. There's nothing going to be special about it. Even if it is fun, if it has that flavor, that aftertaste is what you can't get out of your mouth. That'll stick with you long after the show ends. So let's get on to a little bit more of a positive note. And that's what Scoundrels Cantina says. Season 5 would have been a good idea, and then ended with what we saw in the last episode of Season 4. Yes, absolutely. Why they didn't do that? Because maybe no one watches the animated shows, but remember, Clone Wars Season 7 was, at least from my perspective, a massive success. There was so much talk about that, and some of the best moments in all of Star Wars, period, in the last 4 episodes. So there's that. John, is it Graber? I'm sorry, the space jockey. Here's a sip for you. He says he's so excited for Ahsoka. So I'll ask you a question. What is it that you are most excited about for Ahsoka? Because myself, I'm interested. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't have the full enthusiasm that I wish I had. So maybe if you can give me what you are excited for most, I can focus on that and try to stay positive and watch it like an 11-year-old, which is what they all say to do. So next, positive. My number 5 positive is that this could be a fresh experience. The trailer feels different. I don't know what it is, but it feels like this show is going to have a different feel, which could be awesome. It could be something we totally didn't see coming at all. Andor was like that. Totally different from what we had gotten before. It was a fresh experience, and it worked. They nailed it. And so we could have the Mandalorian style show, the Andor style show, and the Ahsoka style show, and it could be a totally different experience and really solid if it's a different type of storytelling. I'm totally open to that. I don't need Andor, but with different characters. I don't need Mandalorian Season 2, but with different characters, or a continuation of the exact same thing, which is another pitfall that I didn't even think about. But if this is the exact same show in terms of production, directing, screenplay, cinematography, plot points, story beats, that things of that nature, as 3 seasons of Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, this would basically be the 5th season of that type of show, ignoring that they're different series. But this could be what seems like a show that is running on and on and on and on. And that, I think, would do it a disservice. And that kind of touches into my number 1 thing that I don't want to be in the show at all. We'll talk about that as we get on into the stream a little bit later. But another thing that could be a massive positive for this show, if they do it right, that is bringing the animated characters to life. Now, they could absolutely knock it out of the park when doing this. But they could also majorly ruin those characters. But we're staying positive in this little segment right here. So if they bring the animated characters to life, they could totally nail it with Ezra Bridger, Sabine. Who else could they bring back in? I'm sure there's more. Kanan, are we going to see any Kanan? I don't think so. I got to rewatch Rebels again before the show comes out. But if they bring those characters to life, they could absolutely nail it. And there could be hope still. Matt Cave says it feels fun to him. Yeah, but in a different way. If you know what I'm saying, in a different way than Mandalorian was fun. And I think getting away from Grogu is going to help with that a little bit. But yeah, it does feel fun, which I didn't want fun out of Andor, and we didn't get fun. So that's different. Goes back to that fresh experience. I do believe in Dave Filoni's story arc from her. I have faith. And that is a very real possibility that he has. It's his child. I do believe that he has something more in store for her character than just, here's the character I've made. She's really cool and interesting, right? She's going to go on some adventures. So it is very possible that she has a much bigger role to play than just being a cool person who does cool things. So that would be awesome if that is the case. Short story is what we want. Well-written characters and plots without any ulterior agenda by the writers and producers, which is my number 3 point of things that could absolutely ruin this show, is if it goes woke. Now, of course, go woke, go broke is what everyone talks about. There's channels that build themselves on finding every little ounce of whatever could possibly be conceived of as woke in everything that comes out of Hollywood and Disney. And that's not what I'm talking about. When you put the message you're trying to promote above the story of the product, that's a problem. When you squeeze and shoehorn, I believe would be the term, your own ideology and something that you want to be in the story into a story that shouldn't have it in the first place, that's a problem. So the Star Wars universe is well constructed enough that I believe the average Star Wars fan would be able to tell if something, whether a character or a plot or a location or something of that nature, doesn't fit there. It's like your hometown. Star Wars is like a hometown to all of us. And you could tell if there was a recreation of that if it's not correct, or this type of shop would never open in my hometown, or something along those lines. We know it. It's soul food. And if something's off, if it has an extra ingredient that didn't need to be there, we're gonna know. How are they gonna know? We're gonna know. But I feel like Star Wars is the same way. There are certain things that just they don't belong there. And it's not to say that you can't experiment and try different things, but if something obviously doesn't fit, there's a problem. Obviously, you guys probably know, I'm very conservative. I live in Tennessee. So you can imagine my perspective on the woke stuff, especially with two very young daughters, very conservative in how I'm raising them. And that sort of junk that gets added to stories is not not to my liking. So I don't really know how else to say that, but yeah, no woke, please. Matt Cave says, yes, a different style from both Mando and Andor. I like both, but I am looking forward to a bit of change, along with some rebel feels. Yeah, just a different style, and I think they could do that and have that absolutely work. We all know wokeness needs to be purged anywhere and everywhere. Deus vult? Translation, please. I should know that. I'm sure I've heard that before. Conservative in Texas. Yep, same thing. Do they have constitutional carry in Texas? I feel like they should if they don't. They should. I think they do, right? Anyway. But yeah, so woke, just, I don't particularly like the term woke because I'm more interested in picking apart the individual issues that are problematic in society. And okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, here's a sip for you. Thank you for joining. But yeah, woke, a lot of people are too quick to label anything as woke. If it's a female lead in a movie or a show, oh, it's woke. Well, not necessarily, but if the character's whole entire reason for existing is to denigrate males or prove that the woman character doesn't need no man or something, then yeah, that's a different story. But if a story is for promoting family, traditional values, even without being overly into it, like Star Wars has always been about family and passion and empathizing with different people. And that's what makes it so amazing for everyone across generations in its timelessness, is that it appeals to those universal, unchanging human principles. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you guys are Star Wars fans, so you know what's going on. But that is the other thing, going woke. Let's break into this with a quick news segment. I don't know where the stinger is because I haven't been in here in a little while. This is the way the news goes.
The Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire.
So I saw the most amazing headline the other day, and I don't remember where it was from, so I don't even have any screenshots for you, so you're going to have to take my word on this, but I kid you not, this is actually what the article said. So, I'm very conservative. I don't fall into the climate religion trap that is going on in current countries and everything, primarily America, I think, from my perspective. But there's a whole cult alongside of we need to do everything we can to promote saving the environment, reducing carbon emissions, and all that sort of stuff. And absolutely, we should take care of the planet. As a Christian, I believe that it is our duty to take care as good stewards of the planet that we have. That's fundamental to being a good steward in life, is taking care of the planet, but not at the cost of humanity. We don't, oh, this tribe in Africa is burning too much fuel, so let's take away their gas. Okay, well, now they can't survive. They can't cook their beans or something like that. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes the people that are way into that religion are blind to the reality of what's going on. So there was an article talking about how tanker ships, the big giant container ships that take, and if you're just joining, this is not Star Wars, this is a news segment. The giant ships that take the goods from all the ports across the oceans, to China and India and Japan, and all these giant container ships, these massive ships, they burn a lot of fuel. Is it oil that I don't even know what they run on, honestly. I should probably know that, but they release a lot of greenhouse gases or CO2 emissions or whatever you want to call it. They are not very green in that sense. So this article said scientists are now developing and theorizing that this is possible to create a sustainable way to get these things across the ocean without burning any fossil fuels and leaving less of a carbon footprint. This thing would be affixed to the front of the ship, and it would be roughly 100 feet by 10 feet or so. I think they said like 10,000 square meters or something, and it would be like a kite. And the idea is this kite would be so large that the wind would pull the tanker ship across the ocean and not even have to use any fossil fuels to propel this thing across the ocean. And so that might seem like an interesting idea across, right on the surface. And the article doesn't say this, but going on from there, this thing would be on the front of it. The wind would push that, and it would pull the ship along, almost like a sail on this boat. This is what they're theorizing, is that there could kind of be like a sail on the front of this boat, and maybe this whole thing could be called a sailboat. That's their solution. Sorry to break it to you, but I believe that technology has been around for 6,000 years or so. Here's one of the original concepts for it, actually, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. There it is. Look at that. Just a ship being pulled with a big sail. So, sorry to break it to all of those fanatics, but we kind of already have that already. But don't blame me. That's just the way the news goes.
The Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire.
Wish I was making that up, but that was absolutely... I was laughing. I thought that was really funny. Stewardship, not craziness. Yeah. Yes. Secular humanists, we need to depopulate the Earth to save the planet. Save the planet for who? For the future generations. Yeah, but if we depopulate, yeah. You ever wonder why without getting too ultra political, the left, all of the policies decrease human population? Very strange, isn't it? Night Wizard, here's a sip for you. Good to see you. Yeah, look, there's already an emoji for it. Exactly. People preaching the climate, like the World Economic Forum, constantly fly by private jets. They don't believe in the things they spew. It's not about the sun monster. It's about more control. Yes. Yep. And that's what I said. It's religion. It is absolutely original religion. Call it like I see it. Well, let's continue. Something that could be awesome in this, and Matt Cave, hopefully you don't have to get out of here real quick, because our next little segment is I want to get your reaction to it. I hope you enjoy it. So let me know if you have to go, and we'll jump into that. But before we get to there, Number 3, Ezra's arc. If they get it right, this could be awesome for the show. Ezra is a fascinating character, different from a lot of the other characters. I don't know. I can't remember a character that is like him anywhere else in Star Wars right off the top of my head with his story. But his arc is fascinating from where we meet him, and my wife and I just watched the first couple episodes of Rebels Season 1 the other night. It's interesting where we see him and how he matures through the Season 4 ending, through the finale. And to see a continuation of that would be awesome. Where has he been in the time since then? What has he been doing? What has he learned? How powerful is he now? And, how has he matured as a character? It would be awesome to find out more information about where he's going. So, yeah, it's a cult. It's definitely a cult. People are saying we're running out of the forest, but I just want to get plenty of trees. Yes, so Lux is doing his job. Yeah, yes. Here in Tennessee, yeah, there's a lot of trees. So I don't think carbon dioxide is going to kill all of them. There are quite a lot. If you've never been out of the city, there's a lot of trees. There's a lot of trees. But Ezra's arc, I think they could absolutely nail it. And I'll throw that question back to you guys that I said earlier on in the show, because I know we got some people that have been here since the very beginning of the show. What is it that you are most excited for about this show? And what do you think would be awful if it was in there? Like, what do you think could ruin this show? I want to throw that and get your opinion as well. But Ezra would be awesome to see. And I don't know if he's going to be a last minute little pop in at the end of this season of Ahsoka. First season, only season, I don't know. Or if he's going to show up halfway through and be like a major player as we get into the nitty gritty of the second half of the season. I hope that's the case because I want to know actually what's going on. And it would be weird to have Thrawn be like a major antagonist without Ezra being there at all. But again, that goes back to this could be a totally fresh experience. I don't know what we're going to get in this show. So that's the number 3 thing that could go right with this show. The number 2 thing that could go wrong with this show is if they ruin Thrawn. And that's depends on who you ask what they want Thrawn to be, because there's the Thrawn of Rebels, there's the Thrawn of Heir to the Empire, and then there's the Thrawn of the newer book trilogy. I can't remember. Someone in chat help me out. But everyone kind of has their preconceptions about who Thrawn is, how he's supposed to act. At least we know that he will talk correct, so that's good, at least, and you can assume that he will get the mannerisms. Is it Lars Mikkelsen? Mads is the brother, right? So Lars. At least we know that the talking and the mannerisms will be correct, and hopefully that'll extend to the acting, and even farther than that into the dialogue and the actual words that he says. Hopefully he knows the character from playing him in Rebels well enough to have some input on how the character would act in certain situations. So it could be awesome. It could be fantastic. Now, I did see a comment on one of my videos earlier. Someone said that Thrawn is a terribly designed character, completely boring and useless and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to argue with that. That's your opinion. But I think if they don't do Thrawn justice, or if they have him play a minor role in this, it could be really bad for the show. Let's see. Matt Cave says, I feel like Ezra will be saved for the end of the season. That said, I hope we get him sooner. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling as well. I'm most excited for the villains, but it's kind of hard to be super excited because we know the villains and Thrawn lose, and we know that the Rebel crew doesn't really have a future with the Resistance. Yeah, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, is we know where it's going. So you can't really be all that interested in the way there. So, yeah, that opinion is wrong. Yeah, I agree. Why can't we just go from the books? Well, it's not like we have any source material to go off of, or whatever that Kathleen Kennedy quote was. This will be the continuation of the Rebels version of Thrawn and the remake novel trilogy, which I enjoyed a lot. Yeah, I didn't read the trilogy. I probably should. Actually, no, I listened to the audiobook of the first one. Was it Ascension? I don't recall. Whatever the first one was, where they had the Skywalkers as like the Chiss Skywalkers. Whatever that book was, I listened to the audiobook of that one. I don't think I did the whole trilogy though. So, if they ruined Thrawn, that could be pretty bad. Now, number 2 thing that they could get right in this show is adding to the lore. And this is personally the thing for me that would make the most difference in my appreciation of this series. If they add to the lore in a meaningful way that adds detail. Think about how much Andor added to the universe and the lore of Star Wars leading up to the rebellion. And we expected it to do that. That's what we knew it was going to do. And you could say the same argument for Andor. We know where it's going. We know that the Rebel Alliance is going to form. They're going to blow up the Death Star and then ultimately leads to the sequels or whatever. So we knew where it was going. But we didn't know the sacrifice that was made to get us to that point. And it added so much detail about these small little rebel uprisings that started to happen, the political aspect of it with Mon Mothma, with the upper class of Coruscant and how that played into it. This collector guy and the underground spy network. There was so much detail that Andor added to that lore that made it important. And ultimately, I really hope that Ahsoka is important. Because, and I didn't even write that on my list of things that could ruin this show. If it's not important, it'll be thrown to the wayside. Book of Boba Fett was not important. Mando Season 3 was not important. Obi-Wan Kenobi was not important. We learned a couple cool details and had some cool scenes. But it was not vital. It was not that important to the overall story of Star Wars. And I'm not even saying that everything has to tie into the Skywalker trilogy. Saga. Why did I say trilogy? Three trilogies. Whatever. I'm not even saying it has to tie in directly to that or anything. But is it important? Even if you go back to Knights of the Old Republic, the original one, that was important because it gave us the story of the Old Republic and Revan and what was going on at that time. And that adds to the lore, the immersion and detail of what's going on in the universe and how the world operates is what's most interesting for me. And that's what I'm most excited about if they get it right, is how they add to the lore. Oh, pop-ups, go away. Newer Thrawn trilogy fits with the Rebel series, really well done. Yeah, I gotta go back and do it. From what I remember, it was great. From what I remember. I don't remember it a whole lot. That was a couple years ago. Hey, Nova Vaughn, good to see you. Here's a sip for you. I think the big difference between knowing where it leads with Andor and the other sequel shows is that we know Andor leads to a meaningful story that culminates with the original trilogy. Yeah, probably. Man, this coffee is making me jittery. I don't know why. Yes, that's a very good point. And it also shows why Andor is such battle-hardened in Rogue One. Yes, and we got to see more of his character and where it goes, as opposed to just getting to something, I guess, would be the way to put it. So before we get to the number one... where's that banner? Before we get to the number one thing that could sink this show, and the number one thing that could make it float and even fly. Before we get to that, you may be wondering what George Lucas himself thinks about any of this Star Wars. So it's time to bring in my very special guest. I've never had him on the show before, never even dreamed of having him on the show before. Let's bring in someone very special and ask him exactly what he thinks about this new Ahsoka show. This is AI George.
Yeah, but there's always this little part in you is saying, what am I doing?
I want you to get out of this office right now. Out!
need is an idea.
All right, so going back to the maker of it all, let's bring in the man himself, Mr. George Lucas. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. So, what is your initial anticipation of this Ahsoka show, and did you have anything to do with it?
Well, you got to remember, I sold Star Wars along with Lucasfilm a while ago.
Okay, are you looking forward to it at all? Do you have any excitement left for any of the Star Wars products coming out at all?
To be honest, I don't really care. They kind of do their own thing.
I know, but you got to at least be somewhat interested in the story, right? In the continuation of at least the universe that you built.
No, absolutely no enjoyment from me. Whether or not it fits with what I originally intended for the Star Wars universe, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, come on. Tell us what you really think on this, because we know you probably have some emotions bottled up inside that you...
Oh, you can't put a price on greatness. Not $1 million. Not $6 billion. I never should have sold that stupid company.
Oh, okay.
What is
All right.
Lucasfilm without George Lucas? Nothing. Nothing is what it is. They should rename it to Stupid Film, because everything they make is stupid. You and your stupid little mustache and your stupid YouTube podcast. At least I've got $6 billion and you don't even have 6,000 subscribers.
Oh.
Don't waste your money, folks. Ahsoka will be a stupid waste of
All
time.
right, this has been AI George.
Yeah, but there's always this little part in you is saying, what am I doing?
I want you to get out of this office right now. Out!
All set. All I need is an idea.
Sorry for that, guys. George can be a little feisty sometimes. We'll just put it that way. But I honored to have him on the show. I mean, whoever would have thought that me, just a guy with a cup of coffee and a microphone, would have the maker himself on my show. So, I know. Thank you, guys. I thought that was so... I've been thinking about that all day, and it took me like 20 minutes to whip up. So, yeah. Honestly, my daughters love the stash, so the no subs hurts way more. Yeah, glad you guys enjoyed that, because I had so much fun making that. I'll definitely be doing more. That is absolutely going to be a recurring segment, because, yeah, I had a lot of fun on that one. So, the number one thing that could totally tank this show, and we almost touched on it a little bit earlier, but if it's mediocre, if it is subpar, that will sink the show worse than it being bad, maybe? Because if it's just another show, it'll be completely forgettable, and no one will want to rewatch it. How many of you guys have rewatched Book of Boba Fett? How many of you guys have rewatched Kenobi? Like recently, aside from maybe you watched it through twice when it came out. I know I haven't. I watched through each of those maybe 3-4 times as they were coming out, each episode a couple times. But I haven't been back since. They were mediocre, subpar, pretty flavorless, unimportant, and it doomed those shows. And I think if with Ahsoka, they have an opportunity to try something new. And if, again, they fail at it, if they fail this time to even give us something interesting, Star Wars might be dead for a lot of people. Never for me, because it's Star Wars. Like I want to know everything, whether it's good or bad. I want to try to enjoy whatever I can out of it. But I think if it's mediocre, that is going to sink it pretty bad. And not just the show, it's going to sink the brand as a whole. The IP might not recover completely from that. Caffeine stupidity, yeah. I'm honored for that. So, ignore Nightbot. I don't know what it's trying to do. You're fine. Ignore Nightbot. Have you seen the leaked Lego Star Wars Ahsoka sets? They are pretty interesting and reveal some stuff. No, I have not. Share them in Discord. I haven't heard anything. And again, maybe that's just because there's not much talk about Ahsoka, or I just haven't been in the right corners of the internet to hear about that sort of stuff. 3 Mutts and Ollie, good to see you here. Here's a sip for here. For you, oh my goodness, I'm tired. Nope, neither. I watched it all at once and left it in the past. Yeah. Good to see you. I don't believe I've seen you around here before, so if you're a newer subscriber, then welcome. Hope you're enjoying your time. Let's see, I have not watched Boba Fett, and I want to forget Kenobi. Ouch. I only watched them all at once, but if I do watch the series again, it's going to be Andor. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, stupid film. I won't even watch Mandalorian Season 3 again. Yeah. I think going back into the lore involving Jedi, Sith, and the Force will be a very positive move. Great point. That is another great point, something that I didn't really think about. But I did kind of remember that as we watched the first couple episodes, because you remember he steals Kanan's lightsaber and the holocron in, I think, the second episode. So we do get into a little bit more of that mysticism of Star Wars rather than just Grogu and blasters and bounties and darksabers and stuff. So that will be refreshing. And again, it feels different than what we've gotten before. So that could be why. And before I get to that comment, seeing a lightsaber on screen and a Jedi and Force powers and stuff as a focus rather than just a cool thing that we see is going to be really nice to see on the screen again. Because even Ahsoka in Mandalorian Season 2, the lightsabers were freaking out about it just because of how rare it is to see that in that setting. And it's going to be awesome. Yeah. I love Star Wars regardless of the poor quality of mostly everything Disney has released. I won't ever rewatch Obi-Wan or Boba. Yeah. There's not really a need to. Thor Skywalker has been putting out Ahsoka content. Yeah, I'm sure that other people have. I just haven't seen it. Have you seen the teaser for the fan remake of Kenobi? A fan named Pixel Joker 95. I have not. Please send it to me. I'm interested. Why don't we just get more story lore before the Clone Wars? Like, why don't they come up with a show or a movie that takes place about 10 years before Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan get to Naboo? It just, like, straight up lore. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Make Jedi great again. Yeah. So, anyway, let's get into the number one thing that could make this show great. Thrawn. Now, I know we talked about him earlier. If they ruin him, it could be the death knell for the show, along with everything else we talked about tonight. But if they get Thrawn correct, he could be one of the coolest bad guys in all of Star Wars, or anti-heroes, or whatever you want to call him. He has the potential to be revolutionary in terms of the general public's knowledge of Star Wars. Thank you, Matt Cave. The general public's knowledge of bad guys in Star Wars. Because if you ask guys, who is Darth Tenebrous? Who is Darth Malak? Who is Darth Malgus? Who is Darth Bane? Nobody knows those guys. And specifically with Bane, we have such awesome bad guys with such awesome backstories and detail in their characters. Thrawn has that as well. And it could add to the list of characters that the general casual Star Wars viewer will know about. You got your Palpatine, General Grievous, Dooku, Vader, like the main guys. But adding to that, in the spotlight, someone as complex as Thrawn could be really awesome and get some new interest in Star Wars. And if they nail it, if he's a really convincing, serious, grounded bad guy, that could be awesome. In the same way that, and again, it doesn't have to be just like Andor, but how Andor was grounded and convincing. The characters were believable. in how they acted, and their characters were consistent unto themselves. If they do that with Thrawn, even if the rest of the show is Disneyfied, if Thrawn as a central malevolent force is convincing and well thought out and correct to what we know of Thrawn so far, I think it could be awesome. And I might even be able to overlook plenty of bad things if we get a good Thrawn. So he is the coolest bad guy in Star Wars after Vader and Fett, which is why doing him wrong will sink the show, as you pointed out. Yeah. Susty, good to see you. Dad, good to see you. Boba Fett wasn't bad. There were some good things, but, well, yeah, never mind. It was kind of bad. That's kind of how it feels. It's like, no, yeah, it wasn't that. Yeah, I see what everyone says about it. I get it. I understand it. So, that is my 5 things that could go wrong and 5 things that could go right with this show. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about with this show, put it in the chat, and then we'll wrap it up after that. That moment when the Force Unleashed 2 treats Boba better than his own show. Sus T was all into Force Unleashed when a while ago. That's my logo. Without the mustache, because supposedly hair doesn't grow on platinum or something. Keep telling yourself that. All right. Well, that's all the points I had for today. Yeah, Force Unleashed games are amazing. I never got the chance to play through them. But, yeah, made this way. I know. And I have a stash now. Ooh! Good to hear. Good to hear. So, I am, now that I've kind of talked through some things, a lot more interested in this show than I was at the start of this stream. So that's really awesome. Thank you guys for discussing this and getting me more interested. So that's awesome. Any other thoughts you guys have, put in the comments below. And like I said, if you want, delicately tap the like button. You don't have to. Yeah, more AI George. I will definitely be making more AI George, and I'll release that as its own video. So you'll see that up soon as its own video. You guys can rewatch that then. So yeah, I'm a lot more excited for this show now. And specifically what Matt Cave was saying about bringing the Force and the mysticism and lightsabers and holocrons and telepathic communication, that sort of stuff, all the stuff that we associate with the more fantastical aspects of Star Wars coming back into it. It is, how much longer am I streaming for? Probably like 5 minutes. Unless you want to jump in. If you're home, you can do that. Matt Cave says, let me know when you see that trailer for the fan-made Kenobi or do a reaction. It's really good. Yeah, I might do that. Good idea. Thank you. I might do that right after this. Yeah, breakfast cereal. Yes, it is a breakfast cereal. So, yeah, it could be awesome. I'm still not going to do reactions to each episode of Ahsoka because it's so much work. And I don't. No, I haven't seen the trailer for that. The creator. I don't know what it is. Reactions are so much work. And I don't have a dedicated editor. It's me. And especially now that I don't even know. Can you see it? Yeah. Now that my screen looks like that, it's not going to focus on it, is it? Oh, there we go. It makes it very hard to edit videos. And this is what I use for editing. So, yeah, there's that. But definitely live streams and shorter form content. I do want to get into making those more as we get into Ahsoka because, yeah, the trailer is just the Bible. No, I haven't heard about that at all. I'll have to check it out, look into it. So, but I think we will wrap it up here. I appreciate you guys for being here. If you want, like I said, delicately tap the like button, so please don't break your phone. If you have to smash it, I guess, that's fine. But I appreciate you guys being here, because I know I've been off of YouTube for a little while, not making consistent videos, but the fact that you guys all show up to hear me talk by myself about this sort of stuff and talk to fake George Lucas, it's still awesome that we've built a little community around this. So I love talking with you guys, even if it's just me talking. So thank you everyone for being here. AI George, AI George, AI George. Yeah, so thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you are not in Discord already, click the link below to join the Discord server, and we can continue this conversation in there. You can send me a message if you want, and then we'll talk about stuff. But yeah, again, I appreciate you guys being here. If you've been here from the very beginning, I really appreciate your time. May the stash be with you, and I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.